Well, I know we have a lot of people here for their first time. A lot of people are here for their first time, and if you are here, from my best understanding, the place where the execution will take place is, if you see that tower, that first building to the left, I believe it's on the first floor, is where the death chamber is. As far as we know, there is no stay of execution for Gary, and so we're thinking he's pretty much on the gurney and getting ready for his 6 o'clock execution. I would like to start by sharing that a friend of Gary's is here, and Gary wants to thank all of us for gathering today, and he is aware of our presence. I'd like to introduce Mark Elliott, who's the head of the Floridians Against the Death Penalty, and he is going to share with us not only about Gary, but we have with us here today 3 exonerees of the death penalty.
Thank you, Father Phil. I'm Mark Elliott. I'm Director of Floridians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. That's FADP.org. A little over 19 years ago, I came here to this field, the same field you're in today, although I think we had more shade then. But I came here to find out why the state of Florida was executing prisoners when there was the alternative in place of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Why do we need to kill someone? Is there something about this I don't understand? So I came here as a private citizen just to find out more from the people that were here about how I could find out more information. And what I witnessed that day, the things I learned that day, put a spark in me. They put sparks in me that lit a fire that I spent 2 years researching the death penalty and why and the wherefores, and I found no redeeming value or redeeming virtue whatsoever. It's strictly a holdover from the past, that somehow blood revenge is going to fix something, when the reality is it can't change what happened. It can't change what happened 20-something years ago, but it's us. There's people that will say, not in our name. And what they're saying is, the death sentence is handed out in the name of the people of the state of Florida. The executioner is paid by the taxpayers of the state of Florida. It's a contract killing. We pay $150 of our money for him to kill someone. We're just as culpable as he is. We're contracting for this. The sentence is carried out in the name of the people of the state of Florida. That's us. And the bottom line is, it's just not necessary. There's no reason to kill someone that's never going to be let out of his cell. It's just the way it is. So some of the things I found out. One, the state of Florida spends roughly $50 million per year just to have the death penalty. That's over and above the cost of sentencing the same person to life, same people to life in prison without the possibility of parole. $50 million a year. What does that mean? Well, the death penalty does not deter crime. There's no proof whatsoever that it keeps us safer in any possible way. That's been well determined. But this $50 million, there's 14,000 unsolved homicides in Florida. A small portion of that 50 million could go a long way into solving hundreds and hundreds, who knows how many unsolved homicides. Killers that are still on the street that have literally gotten away with murder. It's time to put away the needle, get the handcuffs, and bring people to justice. And if the ultimate justice is life in prison without the possibility or whatever, but trying to kill them, to take that blood revenge, stains all of us. I come out here and I feel that this is, in trying to stop these executions, it's not about what the people on death row may have done. And I say may because we have 3 people who were on death row that were found innocent and later exonerated. There's 29 in the state of Florida, 29 innocent people that were sentenced to death for a crime they did not commit. The last fellow had been 42 years from the time he was sentenced to death, from the time he was eventually released. So if I supported the death penalty and I found out there was one innocent person on death row, that would do it for me right there. That would be the end of it. It's not worth it. So today, I'd like to ask our three guests to come and introduce themselves so you know who they are. Derek, Herman, Seth. And these gentlemen were on death row for a crime they did not commit, and they join us here today to bring awareness to this issue, to end the death penalty, to end executions, because they're living examples of how the system works. You know, it's who can afford the best attorney, it's prosecutors that withhold evidence, distort the case, and it's just simply, it makes mistakes. The system is not perfect. Derek Jameson was on death row in Ohio for 20 years. He now lives in Florida. During that time, 18 people he made friends with were executed. And the other day, we were on our way to a lynching marker ceremony in Orlando and talking about how the death penalty today is legalized lynching, is all it is. It's even a lot of the same people killing the same people for a lot of the same reasons. So Derek told me, you want to tell me? All right. I just love what he said because it really struck me. And he said, Mark, lynching, the death penalty is modern day lynching. He said, they took me to the tree 6 times. Derek had 6 execution dates, 1 3 hours from when the needle would have started, before it was able to be demonstrated that he did not commit the crime and was indeed innocent, and he was released. So yes, Derek and Herman are survivors of modern day lynching. When you come right down to it, that's what it is. Herman Lindsay is the 23rd exonerated Florida death row survivor. And is that where? I don't see him. Oh, here he comes. Hey, Seth, you want to come up? I didn't recognize you with your shades on, man. You can't tell who I am either. So we have Seth Penalver with us today, who's the 24th exonerated Florida death row survivor. And like I said, there's now 29. These gentlemen are living proof of what the system is and what it does. So, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and thank y'all for coming today, even though it's a sad situation. My name is Derek Wayne Jameson. I'm the 119th death row exonerated in the United States. And as you know, as of today, we got 166 men and women that's been exonerated from a U.S. prison in the United States. I've been home almost 15 years now, and I've been speaking out all over the world. I've been speaking out against this evil thing they got called the death penalty. Called the death penalty is pure evil because they're killing innocent people. We got 166 men and women in America that's been exonerated from death row that was kidnapped and almost murdered for something they didn't do. So that's why I speak out, and I'm going to continue to speak out because this is just wrong what we're doing right now. This is wrong. Killing people is wrong. Should no man or woman have the right to say who should live or die in America? We're giving up too much power with having the death penalty in our state. And I'm just sorry. This is really sad to me because I had 6 days of executions on Ohio death row. They came to kill me 6 times. And I'm here now free, and I'm going to continue to speak out against this horrible thing called the death penalty, because the death penalty is just pure evil. We need to get rid of it. We got a thing called life without parole and life in prison. We need to use that because the death penalty, we are making too many mistakes. Thank y'all for having me here. Love y'all.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out today. My name is Seth Penalver. I spent 18 and a half years incarcerated for a crime I did not do. I was actually right across the street over there, too, until I was granted an appeal, went through another trial, and was finally exonerated. And I was able to find out where the prosecutor and the state attorney's office, as well as the police department in my case, was covering up evidence that I wasn't the person. which was eventually used in my trial to exonerate me. So I'm here, whether a person is innocent or guilty or not, I'm still going to come out here every time because it's just not right. We never know. Whenever we have humans involved in a certain situation, that could definitely cover something up just to get a bigger paycheck or to become a judge or whatever it may be for their own personal gain, without looking for real true justice. And that's why I'm here supporting Mark over here. Thank you very much. And without further ado, Mr. Herman Lindsay.
My name is Herman Lindsay. I'm Florida's 23rd death row exoneree. Me and Seth went back a long time and turned around to be 23 and 24. It's a long story, but passionate story. I'm glad to see both of us out here. But I want to touch bases on something because I haven't spoken in a while since I've been here, and I've been coming and I haven't really spoken. But for those that's new, and some of those that's old that never heard me say this, how many out here think that our justice system has wrongfully convicted anyone?
Again and again.
And see, this is something that some people will not agree, but our justice system, the system itself, has never wrongfully convicted anyone. Never sentenced anyone to death. It's the jury. It's the jury that came up with the guilty verdict. It's the jury that came up with the recommendation for death. And who is the jury? The people of society. So that's why it is so important, and I thank everybody for coming here because that's why it is so important to have people attend events here to learn the education and understand that if one day they may be a potential juror, or they may know someone that been a potential juror. And if that person don't want to be on the jury, or that person want to go hang out, or that person want to be persuaded by another juror, they need to understand that they're actually playing with someone's life. They need to understand that when Florida put people to death, it don't say the cause of murder is execution by the state of Florida. Instead, it say homicide. They don't add their name on it. But I can remember when I was getting sentenced, the judge did not say the state of Florida sentence you to death, but it said, we the people of the state of Florida hereby sentence you to die by lethal injection. So my message today is to say that we've been fighting for years, and we used to do a lot of events and things like that, and a lot of speaking. But right now, it's calling for more and more, because we have to educate everyone that we know in society, so they can understand how dangerous it is to have this death penalty in. Right now, it's a murder in progress. The state of Florida is not putting their name on it. They're putting we the people name on it. So we the people need to take control and stop this illegal killing. And then for those that actually, when you run into people that actually feel like people deserve the death penalty, you ask them, how can you ask God to forgive you when you can't forgive others? Secondly, you have to look at the death penalty. If most people don't know, the death penalty is actually the easy way out. If a person commit a crime, we got serial killers over there. And if they want to, all they have to do is sign a waiver. And within a couple of years, they can be executed because they give up all their appeals. They can say they ask God forgiveness, renew their soul, and they going on. They're not getting their punishment. But if they stick them in beside them gates, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at them gates over there, living in that every day, and I know because I've been on both sides, living in that every day with nothing to do, But you got to be told when to go to bed, when to get up. You have to work. You have to think about your family. You have to think about the friends. You have to think about what you've done. That is a more harsh punishment than death, actually. So when people feel like they for the death penalty, they only for the death penalty out of emotions, anger, prejudice. And I thank y'all for coming.
Thank you. It is almost 6 o'clock, which means the execution, as far as we know, will be beginning shortly. And although Gary's friend says he knows that we're here, we want him to know that we're here. And so Mark Elliott brings with us this bell. And it is our understanding that Gary can hear the bell, that everybody in the building can hear the bell. And so what we do is we ask that we hit the bell with the hammer. And if you want to say anything, you can, whether killing is wrong or God forgive us or whatever you want to say. And so I do ask that we kind of line up and we kind of take the hammer from the person, after they hit the bell, and we pass that along. So I want Gary to know we're here. So before we begin our service, I would like us to ring the bell.
Linda.
What?
Can you just hold it?
Just hold it?
Yeah, it's running. It's Facebook Live. So.
Okay.
Father, forgive us, for we know what we're doing.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home.
As we gather in prayer for Gary, with Gary, I've asked Elisa to share a few words. She is friends with Gary, to tell us a little bit about him.
Okay, I got it. I have been spiritually advising Gary for the past couple of months. I was very concerned about his soul, and I want everyone to know that he has accepted Jesus into his life, and that he knows where he's going. He knows that they may take his life, but they cannot take his spirit. He is a redeemed man. He is sorry for his crimes, and he is a completely different person than he was when he committed his crimes. And he wanted me to let you all know, to thank you for being out here for him. I know he can hear you guys, okay? So thank you.
I know many of you read up on Gary, and if you read up about Gary, you know that he had a very, very broken childhood and a very broken life. And that broken life ultimately probably led to the things that he did. We have gathered here tonight in prayerful response to the many acts of hatred and violence in our society that we have witnessed even in these most recent days. We gather not just as a Christian group, but in union with many groups throughout the state and the country who are also holding prayer vigils on this day and at this time. We are all gathered in the name of God, who is love, here with us. In this evening filled with hatred, fear, and revenge, we hear the plea of those on death row for mercy. We hear the cry of the families of victims of senseless crimes for healing, wholeness, for an end to the bloodshed. We hear God's call to us to be instruments of his compassion, mercy, and forgiveness. Let us now respond to these cries and to God's call to us. Let us be instruments of healing and love, instruments of true justice. Let us respond in prayer and in deed.
A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. Woe to those who enact unjust statutes and who write oppressive decrees, depriving the needy of judgment and robbing my people's poor of their rights, making widows their plunder and orphans their prey. What will you do on the day of punishment, when ruin comes from afar? To whom will you flee for help? For all this, his wrath is not turned back. His hand is still outstretched. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
My God, I call by thee, I cry aloud at night.
Lord my God,
I
call thy name,
I
cry
cry aloud at night. Pray before you come, incline your ear to my cry. For my soul is filled with troubles, my life draws near to the grave. I am reckoned as one in the tomb. I've reached the end of my strength. day I cry alone at night.
My brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Then each went to his own house while Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. But early in the morning he arrived again in the temple area, and all the people started coming to him. And he sat down and he taught them. Then the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery and made her stand in the middle. They said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to